I voted for Donald Trump twice.
Why? Why? I'm so glad you said that. You got to explain to me why you voted for him twice.
Because I love the game. I did all my protesting. It's a big scam the Democrats pull on Americans, on black people, and that's the problem. Donald Trump come with a new idea.
What new? What is it? What new idea did he come up with?
I'm gonna show you.
No, tell me.
Materialism. We gotta change our attitude. We complain about the Hispanics taking all the jobs. Well, what about the illegals taking all the jobs? Well, they're getting deported. Who's gonna fill the role? They said black people have had to won't work for no money for picking apples, picking oranges. They could be black job, white job, any kind of job.
You know what? But I want to tell you, but Joseph, I want to interject something. You know, some people may say, well, I don't like immigration, and Donald Trump likes immigration, so I'm going to vote for him. But what about all the other stuff that he's doing towards black people that ain't got nothing to do with immigration? And you voted for all those things that he's doing to all those people? That's what you wanted him to do? Did you want him to do all that to us?
Let me speak. I hear you. I hear you loud and clear, but that's not the thing. The thing that is legal is one thing. Manufacturing. I used to walk down Midtown Manhattan every day on 34th 8th Avenue, starting in the fashion district to Avenue of the Americas. And all you see is strollers passing by with manufacturing garment district. We got to bring back manufacturing. You got to put a tax embargo on. A tariff on countries like China.
Well, I want to ask you, Joseph, do you think that Donald Trump has the interests of black people at heart and want to see black people do better? And you as a black person, you voted against your own interests because you think that he's going to do something for us?
You see, that's the problem. It's called not you, David, but we stuck on stupid. We keep bringing up race. What about the other stuff that affect America? We want to all see America do good. Donald Trump,
I want to see black people do good. I don't want to see America do good. I want to see black people do good.
Well, I didn't agree with the voting for Donald Trump crap. I mean, I could understand the Democratic Party plantation brainwash that a lot of black people suffer from, because at least the Democrats lie, you know, and make you think they're going to do something for you, but they never do. Mm-hmm. But at least they are trying to actively seduce you. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump has never tried to actively seduce black people. He's been very honest about his racism. So to your point, Bob and David, it's hard for me to understand why anybody black would vote for Donald Trump as well, because you can obviously see what the agenda is, because he's never hidden it. You know, I could tolerate the Democratic blacks a little more only because a lot of us don't study the behavior of the Democratic Party. We just listen to what they say. But with Donald Trump, he's been so brutally honest about his racism. I don't really see how you could vote for him.
I don't either. Like some people have a single issue, reasons for voting certain ways, but they don't look at the whole picture, the whole picture. And I'm saying the way that he is dismantling institutions left and right, the HBCUs, the museums, the libraries. You know, I don't get why people can't see through all of this. It's early now. It's only been like a month or two since he's been in office, and he's destroying a lot of stuff already. Just think what it's going to be done, what it's going to be like by the time summer get around here. If you're on this convict side, this convicted felon, my boss, if you're on his side, then that's on you. But I ain't with that.
Yeah, you know, but the bigger conversation, Obama David, and I think this is where black America often sells itself short. Mm-hmm. The bigger conversation needs to be had about what are we going to do for ourselves, you know, and that's one of the conversations we never have. Like when I look at I probably get about 300 to 500 emails a day, you know, and about a third of them are invitations to different events around the country, you know, where people might request my input. And none of those meetings are centered on building institutions. Not a single. I've never gotten an invitation from any organization, any person who was having a meeting for us to invest our monies in independently, no government subsidy, to build an institution, to create a system for our people. Never. It is always, how are we going to leverage the government? How are we going to leverage our vote? How are we going to leverage the politicians? You know, how are we going to leverage our DEI status? How are we going to leverage our multicultural identity? It's never black people doing the right things for black people. Never. It's always depending on somebody outside the community. It's always building a relationship with somebody outside the community. It's always begging for something from the government. We are a $2 trillion community. You have groups of people from other culture who have become billionaires strictly off the black dollar. Mm-hmm. The Korean hair care industry has become a billionaire industry strictly off of the black dollar. Air Jordan sneakers, a multi-billion-dollar industry, largely off of the black dollar. So if you got white people becoming billionaires off of black people, you got Koreans becoming billionaires off of black people, Chinese becoming billionaires off of black people, why do we have to always look to somebody else to save us? I am only interested in us saving ourselves, but black people aren't interested in the sacrifice, the responsibility, or the accountability necessary for us to have that conversation, even with reparations. And I support reparations, but sometimes the reparation arguments becomes a distraction away from self-accountability. If you can't spend the $2 trillion you already have correctly, why are you looking for more?
And that was another thing, Dr. Johnson. You know, they tried to erase the contributions that African Americans have made here in America. They want to eliminate Colin Powell from the records. They want to. What was the athlete they tried to?
Jackie Robinson. They took him down.
Yeah.
Medgar Evers. They removed his likeness from the The Arlington National Cemetery. They took that down. I thought that was an insult. But here's the thing, though. Those acts were definitely insults. But at the same time, they were symbols anyway. Empty symbols used to give us the illusion of inclusion. As far as I'm concerned, let them take them down. Because we should have our own honorary activities and plaques and statues for Medgar Evers and for Jackie Robinson. You know, I don't need my oppressor to honor my ancestors who he murdered. You know, we should be doing that ourselves. So some of this, the silver lining in some of this, although there's not a lot of silver, some of the silver lining in this, Baba David, is we have to start taking responsibility for our own legacy and our own likeness. You know, that's on us to properly honor our ancestors. I couldn't care less if they had Medgar Evers' likeness up on the Arlington National Cemetery's website, because he was murdered by them and they protected his killer for a very, very, very long time before they brought him to justice. You know, so for me, it's hypocritical anyway for us to want them to honor the same people they executed. They executed Dr. King. They executed Malcolm. Why do I want them to turn around and honor them? You know, to me, whenever the truth is being shown, I think it's a good thing. So this is showing the truth to our children about who these people really are. You know, and that is the one advantage of having a Republican in that White House. You know, all of the illusions are gone. When the Democrats are in there, there's a lot of illusions. When the Republicans are in there, you know, whether it's him or George Bush, we know exactly who we're dealing with. And so it's just time for us to return to self-determination. This is a call for self-reliance. It is time for us to get back to Garveyism.
And think about it, they're talking about dismantling the Department of Education, which you've talked about on this show numerous times. Like you say, so what if they do this? I say now is the absolute best time for us to create our own schools like you're doing. People should be tearing your door down, trying to see how can we duplicate this across the country.
And the thing is, Baba David, I'm glad you brought up that Department of Education elimination agenda, you know, because as you know, we've been at this FDMG Academy campaign. We've had the school for 6 years. And the quick update on that is once we get these floors covered with the tile, we will be applying for our certificate of occupancy. So we've been through the storm. But guess what? We almost out of it. Once we lay that tile down, it's now up to the city to inspect and give us our certificate of occupancy. So we dancing at the finish line, Bob and David. You remember we went through all that HVAC stuff?
That's right.
And we went through all that plumbing stuff.
That's right.
And we went through all the roofing stuff and all the electrical. We've been through it all. It was been a long road.
That's right.
But, you know, if the tile is the only thing we got to worry about, we are in good shape.
Yeah. Did you get the doors done?
Yes, we changed the doors as well. We got new doors on there.
All right.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is, as you know, a lot of people laughed. They mocked us. Why is he starting a school? And now Donald Trump is proving to our people why we need FDMG.
That's right.
So a part of me is smiling at that, although this is unfortunate.
Yes.
Because people said, why do we need a school? Now you know why.
That's right.
Because the U.S. Constitution, as I've said so many times on your show through the years, the Constitution does not guarantee your child the right to learn. How many times have I said that?
Many.
The word education is not in the Constitution. So yes, he can get rid of the Department of Education because it is not a constitutionally guaranteed institution. So now what's going to happen? Let me explain to black people really quickly. The purpose of the Department of Ed is to make sure that black children's 14th Amendment equal protection under the law rights are upheld in the delivery of public education by each of the 50 states. Without the Department of Ed, if your son, Baba David, is experiencing racism in his predominantly white public school, or if he's being unnecessarily put in special ed illegally for behavior in his predominantly black public school, those are infringements upon his constitutionally protected rights. So if the school doesn't do right by your child, and if your state doesn't do right by your child, you can appeal to the U.S. Department of Ed. They will come out, investigate the allegations of racism and discrimination based on race, disability, culture, whatever, and they can reprimand or punish those schools, largely through the withholding of funds. So with the removal of the Department of Ed, we lose that federal governmental oversight that helps keep states honest as it relates to not discriminating against our children. With the U.S. DOE gone, Baba David, I fear more black boys are going to be getting suspended than ever before. There's going to be more expulsions than ever before. A lot of what the Department of Ed has done to make sure racism was kept under control at the state level, that won't be there no more. And so now, if your state Department of Education doesn't want to take jurisdiction over racial profiling in the classroom, they don't want to take jurisdiction over white teacher racism in the classroom, they don't want to take jurisdiction over the deliberate targeting of black kids for special ed in the classroom, you have no other recourse except to file a grievance against your school district in court. The Department of Education allowed us the opportunity to have the feds come and investigate it, as opposed to having to hire an attorney and find an attorney that's willing to sue a school district in court, because most attorneys are not willing to sue school districts because school districts are so powerful, and many attorneys can foresee an opportunity to make money from the school district, which is why they don't like to sue school districts. So we're going to see the negative outcomes for black children skyrocket over the next 3 years. That is the one drawback. Having said that, let me say this briefly.
Wait a minute, could you repeat that so that Joseph in Massachusetts could hear that?
Absolutely. All negative outcomes for black children are going to be on steroids the remainder of President Trump's administration, because the states now know they have no federal oversight on what they do to black children. There is no watchdog at the federal level, because that's what the Department of Education was. It was a watchdog. If you mistreat the black children, we will cut your funding. Now, they don't have to worry about that because there is no more funding and there is no more oversight. So you talk about suspending black kids, you talk about expelling black kids, you talk about putting black kids in disciplined schools unjustifiably, you talk about locking black kids in special ed all day long when they don't need it. all of that is going to go through the roof now because there is no more federal oversight. That is the one thing that is really going to hurt us as a result of him removing the DOE. Now, go ahead, Bob.
What about the damage that's going to be done to the HBCUs?
Well, they was already hurting. See, from the HBCU perspective, they are going to take a hit because there were some federal dollars that had just been administered as a result of a lawsuit where the HBCUs, many of them had proven that the feds were not giving the HBCUs the same financial assistance that they were giving the PWIs. So they won this in court. So now, since Trump is freezing the money, a lot of HBCUs may not get their settlement money. And we're talking about millions and billions of dollars, Bob and Dave. These are big chunks. You're talking 20 million, 50 million, $500 million that some of these institutions are entitled to. But I believe, because we had this conversation yesterday with the host following my Oakwood University lecture, I believe that the HBCUs can sue Donald Trump and the courts will force him to give them that money because that money has already been settled. That money has already been determined by the courts to be due to the HBCUs. So I don't think Donald Trump should be allowed to reverse that. So I think there might need to be another lawsuit by the HBCUs to guarantee that money. Now, let me say this, Bobby.
Okay.
Here's where I don't care. I do not care about state departments of education crying about the money they're going to lose because the DOE is no longer there. I don't care about school districts like Philadelphia crying about the money that's no longer going to be there because the DOE is no longer there. And the reason I don't care, Bob and David, is most of that DOE money that was coming into predominantly black school districts across the country was not being used to help our children. It was not being used to help our children. That money was being used to increase salaries for white teachers. That money was being used to hire more white staff. That money was being used to provide accommodations and supports for teachers and not for the children. To make a long story short, most predominantly black inner city school districts were hustling and exploiting and misusing their federal dollars. So the fact that they're crying, talking about, well, this is going to hurt us educating our kids. No, it's not, because you never used it to help our kids anyway. You only used it to hire more white people. So a lot of them are upset, Bob and David, because there's going to be a lot of layoffs. A lot of them are going to be getting laid off. A lot of people at 440 North Broad Street who are working in jobs that don't do anything for our kids are going to lose their job, and I don't feel sorry for them.
But you say, some of the school districts locally could sue the federal government, but we have already seen that Donald Trump is ready to defy any court orders. And then what do we do in that case?
No, well, remember now, if he defies the court order, he can be removed from office. Remember,
who's going to remove him?
The Supreme Court, the Congress, and the president, as you already know, those three branches of government, they hold equal power.
Since when?
Donald Trump just came out. He just came out this morning or yesterday. The judge had undone something he did. I forget what it was, but a federal judge undid something he did.
Right.
And Donald Trump said, I'm going to obey the order.
Oh, yeah,
because Donald Trump knows. Donald Trump knows that if you undermine the judicial branch of the government, you can be deposed of your duty. He ain't stupid. He ain't that crazy. He knows he can be removed. He will get impeached quickly if he starts defying federal judges' orders, and he knows that.
But it takes the Congress to impeach him, and
it does.
The Congress is on his side.
The federal government, that will rapidly speed up the pace at which Congress impeaches him. They will have no choice but to impeach him. If Donald Trump completely ignores the judicial branch of the government, then the judicial branch and the legislative will have to unite to overthrow the executive. He is not that stupid. What he's relying on is that the decisions he make when they come before Republican judges, they will be upheld. His problem is he has to navigate around the Democratic judges. Those are the ones who are holding him accountable. But he knows he cannot go against them. That is too, you don't have a precedence in this country of a president that decides to ignore the Supreme Court. You've never had that. And if Donald Trump tries to be the first one, I promise you he'll be removed from office. He is not that crazy. Those who laughed at us for building FDMG. Those who question the necessity of an independent school for black boys, oh, you have all the reasons why we need that school now.
That's right.
You have all the reasons why, because you might not have a school for your kids in the next 5 or 10 years. So everybody better start building schools and stop worrying about when ours is going to open. Start building your own, because we need it right now.
That's right, because how many other independent black schools are there in the country?
No more than 50, and probably closer to 25. And if you want to say how many independent black schools actually operate in a legitimate school building like we have, not more than a dozen.
And that's why it's important more now than ever to to build these.
They didn't laugh at me so much, Baba David, that Donald Trump then gave them a reason why they better start building their own schools.
Yeah, well, I wasn't laughing at you, and I'm still now. I've always been supportive of you, even without a school. I'm still supportive of you as a certified child psychologist. And when you said that you was going to start the school, I said, well, this is exactly what black people need. This is an example of how we can do for ourselves, plain and simple.